And I had a friend that I was hiking with in Yosemite towards the end of last year, and we thought about hiking the trail, but we knew we would both have to quit our jobs. So it was a big commitment. But after being here on that Friday with Space, I called my buddy Ryan, and he decided he was ready to quit his job, and I was too. So we made that decision in November, and in January I started to get a little bit serious about planning, and in March we did it. And I'll tell you, I was not ready to start the trail. Getting to the trail, this is a question that a lot of people ask. How did we even get to the trail? It's in the middle of nowhere in Georgia. So we took a flight, Amy dropped us off in Los Angeles, and we took a flight to Atlanta, and we got a ride up to the trailhead. The picture on the side is myself, and most of you will know Brian Sarvis. He's in the middle. He hiked the first 700 miles with us, and then he came back to do some family vacation. And then the guy on the end is Brian, that's my roommate from college. So the three of us flew into Atlanta. We had a friend drive us up to Amicalola Falls State Park, dropped us off, we slept there, and then the next morning we just started. So really quick, interesting, my trail name is Tarzan, Garrett is Space. On the trail, you very rarely go by your own given names. You just come up with random names, and it can be a story behind it. You can make your own trail name, someone else can make it for you. Meet and Kilimanjaro, those were the two guys I hiked with. Brian Sarvis is now known as Kilimanjaro. So when you see him around town, you can call him Kilimanjaro. But other trail names, Rat Bucket, Smilin' Joe, Rafiki, Roots, the Atlanta brothers, they were from Atlanta. Biscuits and Tarzan, and there was actually another Tarzan on the trail. I was 2 weeks behind him most of the time, but I did end up meeting him and passing him, which was kind of cool. For a long time, when I would introduce myself, I'd say I'm Tarzan, and I always heard the same thing. Well, we just met Tarzan a couple days ago. So it was really, it didn't bother me, but it was kind of annoying. And when I passed him in Maine, it just hit me one day. I was like, now he has to deal with that. And Rat Bucket, it's not a very attractive name, but one of the first nights, this guy had a collapsible water bucket and hung it in a tree overnight, and a rat crawled into it and drowned. So that's how he got his trail name. The first half of the Appalachian Trail, Amy sent me my trail food in post office boxes. So she would arrange all the food here, go to Costco, pick everything up, put it in little baggies, and send it with a flat rate post office box to whatever town I was going to be in about 10 days. We did that for the first half, and the second half, I picked up my own food. It got a little bit easier that way because I could be a lot more flexible with what I wanted to eat. If I was sick of strawberry Pop-Tarts, I could get raspberry Pop-Tarts. If I didn't want Snickers, I could get a Milky Way. And when I told Amy that when she's at home, it would take 2 weeks to change, so I had to still deal with that food for 2 weeks. Typically, on a normal day, I try to get about 5,000 calories from my food, and it is a lot of eating, nonstop. So my breakfast every day would be 4 Pop-Tarts, 2 packages of Pop-Tarts. That was about 800 calories, and I throw in a granola bar to get to 1,000. Try to do a 1,000-calorie snack, a trail mix, a power bar, dried fruit. My lunch was always couscous, and I sent my stove home really early, so the couscous wasn't cooked. It was just in a Gatorade bottle. I would dump the couscous in water and walk for about an hour, and after an hour it was soft enough to just tip it back and drink. So I kind of miss it now. But I didn't mind. No one else really did that on the trail. I did learn that from Kilimanjaro, Brian Sarvis. He taught me that. Snacks, more trail mix, and then dinner every night was mashed potatoes. Instant mashed potatoes, and with no stove, I would just cut the top off, pour a little bit of water in, stir it, eat until it got crunchy, pour more water in, stir it, eat until it got crunchy, and that's how I got my dinner. But I'm kind of different. Like a lot of people on the Appalachian Trail did carry a stove. I mean, that was just me trying to save weight. And then what do you do when it rains? When it rains? You hike. And that's all there is to do. So we also had a quote on the trail, no rain, no pain, no Maine. If you're not going to have pain, if you're not going to be in the rain, you won't make it to Maine. So this is a picture after 1 day of rain, and as soon as we got to camp, the sun came out, and we just hung everything up just to dry. Someone joked that it kind of looked like an Occupy protest on the Appalachian Trail, but it was good to just get it all dry. And then of course with a lot of rain means a lot of mud, a lot of running water. So this was on some board planks that I was walking on through a bog area, and I slipped and fell into the mud. Unfortunately that happened a couple times, and this was actually a section of the trail in some really heavy rain. So the water was just running straight down the trail. And then we did have the one snow day, which was interesting. After one day of snow, I think I was happy with just one day. I know several years you would go through the entire Smokies with snow the whole time. We were just really fortunate with weather. We did have a lot of rain, but we didn't have a whole lot of sustained rain for several days at a time, and one day of snow and a little bit of heat. So, I mean, I can't really complain very much with our weather. A couple of the really scary moments on the trail, though. The first was in New Jersey, and this was the same day. My wife Amy came to visit for 3 days, and she dropped me off at Delaware Water Gap, and she came back to California. So I hiked out, and I was just kind of getting back into the mode of hiking. It was 3 days at the Hilton. I mean, it was really hard to get back on the trail. So I was kind of having a rough day, but I was just walking down the trail, and I took a step, and I heard the rattle, and I jumped. And I turned around, and right where my foot had just been was a rattlesnake coiled up right on the side of the trail. So I'm not sure if it knew I was there. I don't know if I stepped on it, I don't know if I kicked it, but it was right there. And for some reason, it just didn't strike. So that was one of the scariest moments on the trail. But that was the closest that I got to any wildlife that could actually hurt me. The most scary part of the trail was actually in the Presidential Range. And the Presidentials are part of the White Mountains in New Hampshire. And they're just these rugged, huge mountains, and most of it's above tree line, so you're in the alpine zone. It's beautiful views, but earlier on the trail, I was in Virginia, and this lady was just talking to me. She was kind of a little awkward, a little weird, but she said she had a house in New Hampshire, and she said all the locals know that after 2 p.m., you need to be down a tree line. You need to be hidden, you need to be unexposed. So she's telling me all this. She said there are these trail markers that have been struck by lightning. She's seen them scattered in like 300 feet in every direction. And then she told me that she was getting really heated about it. She said her friends are the ones that have to go up and bring the bodies down from the hikers that don't listen to them. So she's telling me all this. She was a little eccentric. I didn't know whether to believe or not. But we got to the Presidentials, and I was remembering that. And my buddy, Meat, that was hiking with me, said he had read a book about peril in the Presidentials and about how people die in the Presidentials, because people die every year. So I had all this in my mind, and we were going up to Lakes of the Clouds hut, and we left the first hut about 4 p.m., and within 30 minutes, I could just hear the thunder coming in. And the clouds started rolling in, and then all of a sudden we were above Alpine. We were exposed, and we had 5 more miles to go, and it's 5 o'clock now. And I'm just remembering those stories, like bodies coming out, people dying. I mean, I was freaking out. I was so scared. The thunder and lightning, they were kind of coming around the whole mountain. It just closed in all of a sudden. I dumped out my water, I dumped out my couscous, and I just ran as fast as I could. And I made it to Lakes of the Clouds hut before it really started dumping rain, but Rafiki that was hiking with me, he came in about 30 minutes later, and he said when he got to the hut, he couldn't even see it until he was about 10 feet out, and then all of a sudden it was just right there. And we both said, never going to do that one again. But that was probably the scariest moment on